And good afternoon. This is the Elliott Wave weekly update for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, being recorded on Sunday, July the 6th at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'm going to start here on the cash market, and I'm starting on my maximum monthly chart. And I just want to do a quick review of this very large picture. And the data, just that you know, that I have goes back to I believe it's 01, 1901. And here we are in 2025. So we have 124 years of data sitting right before us. Now, I also started my count via what R.N. Elliott wrote and created when he did the Elliott Wave principle. And his largest structure that he counted as largest wave was the grand supercycle, and that is in this dark blue. So grand supercycle wave 1 completed in 1929. Grand supercycle wave 2 completed in 1932. Therefore, from that point, we have been, or the market has been involved in putting in a grand supercycle wave 3. Now, this is out of 5 waves of grand supercycle. And this all began with Elliott's work that he wrote himself, that he put together himself. So that original work is still in play. Now, what many people kind of get lost with is like, well, the market always goes up, the market always recovers, the market always does that. That's true. But now we have to consider the following. What's inside of all of this? What happens? Well, we have grand supercycle, that's my largest. Second down is supercycle, that's this light blue. So what are we in? Grand supercycle wave 3. We are in supercycle wave 3, but we're getting ready to complete cycle wave 3. All right, so let's start from the beginning. Where are we? We have grand supercycle 1 and 2. We're in grand supercycle wave 3. What's going to be in there? 5 waves of supercycle degree. What do we have? Supercycle 1 and 2. What's going to be in supercycle wave 3? 5 waves of cycle degree, of which we have 1 and 2 complete, and we're getting ready to finish the third. So yes, we're getting higher and we're longer in terms of time, but we're just finishing cycle wave 3 of supercycle wave supercycle wave 3 of grand supercycle wave 3. So we're just finishing a 3 of 3 of 3 move. Now, there's still more to come, but where are we if we're just finishing? What's going to be inside of cycle wave 3? 5 waves of primary degree, of which we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we're in primary wave 5. Now I'm going to drop this down. Within primary wave 5, we're going to see 5 waves of intermediate degree, of which 1, 2, 3, there's the third, here's the fourth, are complete. Intermediate wave 4 of primary wave 5 finished in October of 2022. So from that level, we've been rising in an intermediate 5th wave, which will consist of 5 waves of minor degree, of which we have 1, 2, 3, and 4 as complete. Minor wave 4 completed on April the 7th of this year. So we're within minor wave 5, of intermediate wave 5, of primary wave 5, of cycle wave 3. Now, within the minor wave 5, I'm going to bring it down and go to my daily. Within the minor wave 5, what do we have? We have 5 waves of minute degree. We have 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is where I've made a change. So let me just say, we are in minute wave 5 going up to complete everything. So once we have minute wave 5 complete, that'll complete minute wave 5, minor wave 5, intermediate wave 5, primary wave 5, cycle wave 3. Now, inside of this, I made a change. I moved the minute third wave from it was currently, but previously it was here. and minute wave 4 was here. I took a look. I did a lot of thought behind it. This was a very, and continues to be a very strong rally. This minute fifth wave up, very strong rally. And I don't think it's done, but that's my preferred count. So let's start to review that. So I have minute 1, 2, 3, and 4, minute wave 3 ended up here, where previously this was minute 3, this was minute wave 4, and this was minuet wave 1 of minute wave 5. That's changed. So minute wave 3, minute wave 4. Now I'm going to bring it down to my hourly chart. There's minute wave 3, minute wave 4. And we've just now, I think on Friday, actually Thursday, completed 5 waves up. So I'm labeling it as minuet wave 1 of minute wave 5. Now you'll see in the others, I have concluded that, well, it could be either minuet wave 1 of minute wave 5, or I just shifted up, and these can all be minuet degree, and this is the 5. Except in the Dow has not made new all-time highs. We're not too far from it, and that level is 45,073. So we got up pretty high. We got to 44,885 on the 30th of June. This tells me, oh, that was this, because this is a weekly chart, excuse me. It actually was last Thursday. So we're not quite there yet. That's why I think it's just the minuet wave 1. So what does it kind of tell us about the others? Because the others, we did make a new all-time high in the S&P. We did make a new all-time high in the NASDAQ. So my alternate counts remain in place there. And how I'm calling this now is that, well, there's a lot of uncertainty going on right now because we saw the markets really start to come down during the Globex session because the grand announcement of on Wednesday, that 90-day reprieve on the tariffs will end. We got it on April the 9th, and it produced a humongous rally. It's really what started all of this. And then we're at that conclusion where we're going to find out when all those tariffs get renewed, put in place, etc. What's it going to do to the market? Well, if we listened in the Globex session, Thursday to Friday, they didn't like it. Now, they didn't come flying down, but we started to see the markets come down. Now, if I'm counting this as 5 waves up, and I put a minuet wave 1 there, well, then we're looking for minuet wave 2. And what is most common? 50 to 62% retracement back down. Wave 2s can be powerful in terms of that I'm looking like, well, it could be 1,000 points down according to the Dow. Now, doesn't mean that that's what's going to happen, but the most common is about 50 to 62% right in here. So that's a pretty good drop. What do we got coming up? Well, here come all these tariffs. And we still have to find out and hear from others, economists and so on actually what is going to be the fallout? What's going to be the result of this great, big, beautiful bill that's now law? Once everything gets implemented, how is that going to affect the different sectors? How is that going to affect the bond market, the dollar, everything? How is it going to affect us as citizens of the United States at all the various levels? How is that going to affect healthcare? All these things are now out there, and we need to be more defined on what people think the result is going to be. That's not been factored in. Let's also consider we're now into third quarter. So what do we need to deal with? Well, we're going to get second quarter earnings. And that basically is next week, not the week that's coming, the week after. We start to get our earnings reports. And how's that going to affect the market? We're still waiting to hear, are these tariffs actually going to take a bite out of the economy? Are they actually going to slow the economy? Is it going to do it on a global level? All unanswered questions. So we don't know. So factor in that we could have a decent decline, but also factor in that anything else outside of that, we have geopolitical things going on as well. And I don't know if any of the other people, but I was reading over the weekend that at the NATO meeting, that the head of NATO basically was setting out the groundwork to say, be leery, folks, because somebody's intelligence or whatever's going on was thinking that China's going to make a play for Taiwan and Russia's going to make a play to get Estonia, Latvia, and there's one more over in that corner, uh, along with the Ukraine. Now, I've talked about this previously. Not that I thought that it was going to happen, but I spoke about that the fact that it's like there's several ways that the United States, in terms of its power, in terms of the dominance of the dollar, in terms of many different things, can shift. And that's one of them, starting a war on two fronts. And we can't forget that the United States went in and bombed alongside of Israel those nuclear sites in Iran. So, yeah, there's a lot going on, folks. And so that's why I came up with my alternate. I didn't come up with it, it just made sense to me that the alternate would be that in the NASDAQ and in the S&P that it was done. If I had to put it here as all done, then the Dow would be ending in a failure. Now, I'm going to leave it like that because it's not my first choice. This high did not take out this high. I think it's this one. That's 54, and this is this one right here. It did not take out the high of minor wave 3. So minor wave 5 would normally do that. If it ends here, it's not that huge of a failure, but it's still a failure nonetheless. And if I did it, I'd put the minor 5 up here. Now take it back down. I'd have to put the minor 5 up here. What would that then suggest? Back out to that's a little bit too much. I'm going to go here. What that would suggest is that minor 5, intermediate 5, primary 5, cycle 3. What am I correcting? Now I can go to that monthly. I'm correcting back to here. So what did Elliott tell us? Elliott tells us that the fourth wave, when in motion, will find its terminus, its endpoint, within the fourth wave of one lesser degree. Well, if we're counting on a cycle degree, one lesser degree is primary, and there's primary 4. So yes, the possibility, whether it starts at that level or whether we go up and make a new high above 45,000, it's still going to have the same result when the correction comes. Ultimately, we run that we can come down to these lows. Now, everyone's going to call and they're going to write, they're going to tell me I'm crazy. But actually, this is all nothing but excess cheap money, right? That was the great financial collapse of 2009. Well, what happened after that? The government had to inject capital into corporate level. And they did. And interest rates started to come down. What did that fuel? Wow, big rally. Then we got the pandemic. How did we get out of the pandemic? The federal government had to inject capital into the people, not corporate, but retail, as we call it. Why? Because we couldn't leave the house. Many people had no means to make money, but they still had to pay their bills and they still had to eat and they still had to, et cetera. So a gigantic amount of money got pumped into the system so that we all could continue living. Now we're dealing with what? 34 trillion, $35 trillion. in a deficit, and the great, big, beautiful bill intends to add 4 to 8 trillion more over the next 10 years, I believe. We already have downgraded by three major credit agencies. The United States credit has been downgraded. We're seeing the dollar being sold. So you start to see the cracks coming in. We can ignore them, but I think that it's better to kind of take a look and say, well, if it does, it's going to. And if it does, I think it'll go fast. So again, bringing it down. I'm keeping it on my daily. Where can we start to find support? Well, initially we got some right there, very strong, at 36,540. That's strong. We got it there. Let's go back out and look at here. Well, let's take it to the 5 year. My 5 year weekly chart. We have support there. We have support here. And if I take it out again, we have support here. Fourth wave, and up here we had a fourth wave. So every time you see a fourth wave, it should provide support. But I'm not saying that's where the market's going to stop and turn and go higher again. But well, it's going to be steps down the way. So it's not, I don't believe it'll go straight down. I think it'll feel like it sometimes. But anyway, back to the hourly, back to where we are right now. If this indeed is just minuet wave one of minute wave five, well, then we got a wave two, and then we have a three, four, and a five to do. Well, here, by moving this over, we have a new calculation that minute wave 5 would be equal to minute wave 1 at 46,173, definitely a new high. Now, that likely can still happen. We get a wave 2, we settle in, not the end of the world, etc. We start getting into earnings season, and we push higher. Whether it's on air, whether it's on, I don't care. I'm not going to quantify the strength of a rally. It could be all based on options positions. Doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. So whether this cycle wave 3 completes in a failure at this level or cycle wave 3 makes it up to this level to complete, we're still going to get that same larger corrective phase in a cycle fourth wave. It's just a matter of when. But right now, the way I've got this set up, I believe there's still more upside to come. Now, where would an alternate count jump in to be the preferred? It would have to be on a break below there, 41,000, let's say 42,000. I think it would have to break below 42,000. And it can, if it comes down real hard and it doesn't hold this fourth wave, then it's done. Right? If it's coming down and it breaks minute wave 4 to the downside and keeps going, well, then I'm going to put a 5 up here. So, but in between, we have support there, we have support there, we have support there. We have 236, 382, 50, and 618. Here are the two most common. And if that holds, we're going to turn and we'll rally again in the third, and then we correct small again, and then run up in that fifth. Could this take us to September? Well, sure. Why not? So, or can it be over quicker? Yes, because if it is, it will likely be triggered by a global event, a geopolitical event, or something that absolutely crushes our market in terms of what's not going to happen. It could be economic, could be a lot of things. That's just where we're at right now. So I want to just, let me get this out of the way. So there really isn't a whole lot. I'm continuing. I think the rally still has a few legs left, but we are, again, getting closer. So all the markets now are in the same position, the same count. minute 3, minute 4, and those levels, and then minuet 1, except in the others, I'm going to leave it here as well. It's either minuet wave 1 or it's going to be 5, and then put this 5 on top of it. So what I'm saying is that I would change all of these, the subs, into minuet. This would be minuet 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and this would be minute 5 and on up. Okay, that would be the failure. That would be the alternate. Right now, I'm leaving it as minuet wave 1. We're looking for minuet wave 2, and then we're going to go up. Our moving averages, they're looking pretty good. But let's see what happens, because I do think we'll probably, the market should go lower because we're correcting. All right, let's go over and take a look at the futures market, which did trade. See? So again, same deal, minuet wave 1, and we're coming down already. But here are our markers. So we're still a good 800 points away from the first one, which is 382, which would be pretty minimal. Now, minuet wave 2 is not necessarily going to line up to a fourth wave, but there is support there. But we have 382 for wave 2, most common again, 50 to 62%, 43,642, 43,273. And we come back down there, then we're going to rally all the way back. Now let's take a look at what our equivalents are in the futures market for minute wave 5. 46,520. That is where minute wave 5 would be equal to minute wave 1. And I got to go back out to my daily so you can see minute wave 1. It was that great, hey, we're putting a 90-day pause on those tariffs. Well, now that's over. So we're going to get a fourth wave out of it. No, we're going to get a second wave out of it inside the fifth, or the fifth is done. So that continues to be what the deal is. Now, the daily, those moving averages are still looking pretty dang good. And I think coming down into here, we're going to see the 8 turn. We're going to see the 20 go flat along with the 50 and the 200. I don't think they'll be damaged, but I think they'll go flat. And it'll be the 8 that'll lead the way. And I'm actually going to end it there. There's not a whole lot to be adding. Let's see, because again, my interest is Wednesday, when these announcements start to be made on the tariffs. And be careful as a trader, be careful, because we now know there are algorithms that are programmed to cover the news, and they're programmed for words, right? So, and they just react. I find them to be pretty amazing, actually, because you'll suddenly see these flipping and the runs and the dropping and the rally and carrying on. Those are algorithms that are geared to react to the news. So they'll be in full force, I believe. In other words, I think that's about it. That's about all I really have to add. All the moving averages remain in the same place. I'm going to look for I'm going to be looking for that support to contain the second wave. But I'm also keeping an eye out if it doesn't and we start to break down. Because I tell you before, breaking below 42,000 invalidates this count. Why? Because wave 2 cannot take out or go beyond the starting point of wave 1. It's not a wave 2 if it does. Okay, that's going to be it. Our next update will be next week